Lost Faith monologue. Today's date is Sunday the 20th of July 2025. I've been reading Edward Bernays' book Propaganda, and it's fairly near the beginning, I think, where he makes a statement that, and this is not verbatim, people's minds are moulded and their choices are made for them, largely by people they don't know the names of, or something, words to that effect. And what he's saying is that your choices, not just in terms of what you consume, but your beliefs, the choices you make based on your belief systems, are moulded and given to you by people in the shadows, or in other words, he calls it, he refers to it as a secret government, I think is what he calls it, or a hidden government. And I mean, this is somebody who, has worked behind the scenes. This is not somebody who's just got some book knowledge and some theories. This is somebody who's worked for the huge corporations and worked for governments. Everything from manipulating the public to make certain choices in terms of advertising, and also manipulating women to start smoking, which was part of the socialist agenda, but also working behind the scenes to help overthrow governments. You can look this up, it's difficult to find. So he knows, this is his experience he's talking about. So what he's saying is the hidden social engineers, you're engineering society to make choices based on your agenda or their agenda. This is the they, who are they? This is them. The hidden social engineers with ancient psychological knowledge of how to control people. Social engineers, hidden, which is occult. That's what occult means, hidden. It's all it means. It doesn't mean witchcraft. It doesn't mean evil. It doesn't mean Satanism or Aleister Crowley. It means hidden. That's it. So these are the hidden occultists who use their knowledge that the vast majority of people don't have, and they use that knowledge against them to control them. And Bernays makes the point that, and it's a valid point, but it's got shaky foundations anyway. He makes the point that this is almost necessary in today's democratic system. You can't have too many people having too many of their own thoughts. You've got to limit their choices. That's why we, generally speaking, only have two choices when it comes to politics, maybe a third. Generally speaking, red and blue. You've got to limit people's choices. Thank you. So it's kind of a valid point if you believe in democracy. But I don't believe in democracy. It's just the mob rule. the majority rule. Doesn't matter how immoral they are or how misplaced their loyalties are. They get their own way, and we're forced. Everybody else is forced, using threats of violence and coercion, to comply with the mob rule. Thank you. It's just a criminal cartel. Tricks you into thinking you've made a choice, and they steal your money and convince you that you're at the heart of all of their decisions. So he makes a valid point that it's kind of necessary if you're going to run a democratic system, but that point is already made out on shaky foundations, because democracy is just another lie. It's not power to the people. It's not freedom. Does that sound free? So, the social engineers. Just some things that popped into me memory about how people actually think and therefore act. Some of the bizarre stuff that's gone on lately, and I've spoken about people who support euthanasia in the UK, and they support it vehemently. They're hardened. They really have, grafted on to the idea of legal murder, and actually think it's virtuous, and they actually want to be treated like a dog. They want to be put down like a dog, because the way they see it, when you lose a bit of your independence, let's just say you ended up in a wheelchair, and obviously you lose a bit of independence. They see that as, the value of life has demonstrably decreased, and they could say the same about any of the sort of senses, I suppose. Sight, sound, smell, and they just think, when I can't experience the full material world, just see us off like a dog. Now they think that they're supporting euthanasia just for terminally ill, but it still has its flaws. Who decides that it's terminal? Who decides that there's no way back? Anyway, it's not going to stay there though. It's going to mission creep. They're going to be euthanizing children with depression before too long. And somebody on social media, I laid out what's going to happen, and this person on social media said, "You've got no evidence that will occur." I'm like, what are you talking about? How do you know what evidence I've got? No, why can they not? Could they not just say, that's horrifying. Can you provide some evidence? But they don't. They tell me I've got no evidence. They don't know who I am. They've never engaged in any sort of communication with us. They don't know what I've got and what I haven't got. Yet they're telling me I don't have any evidence. And again, this is the mentality. Telling me what I have or haven't got. And I'm not going to get into an argument on social media because it's for children. I just said, accept the fact that that's happened in every single country which has introduced it. I mean, is that not evidence? No. Circumstantial evidence, but evidence nonetheless. So, just they don't want even contemplate that there might be something behind this. Their minds are completely owned. I give them it was a very rational, calm post that I made on Facebook, and I highlighted, almost like bullet points, some of the negative aspects of euthanasia, and there was many, and then I put a source to a book which is biased, is one-sided, but I made that clear. I said, if you want the other side of the argument, because they've already made their mind up. They've heard the sound bites. Let's give people dignity in death. Let people not be a burden. Emotional mind control. We don't treat dogs like that. So why do we treat our loved ones like that? Emotional. Once you get the emotional attachment, then you give some logic. Just put them down like a dog, and it's done, like that. End of suffering. It sounds logical, doesn't it? That's how mind control works. Emotional cues followed by some logic. It's what they do in advertising. Say, for example, they're trying to sell an app to track your child's every movement, like some sort of satanic overload. And the advert will say something like, so many children go missing, so many children get abducted. You don't want to be a bad parent, do you? You don't want to be that parent who didn't do the right thing. That's emotional entrapment. Download the app today. Costs 50 pence. Logic. I've got a huge emotional problem, and there's just a tiny little bit of logic required to fix it. It's mind control. You don't need that app. Don't need to 100% survey with children. They shouldn't be surveyed. They should be free to roam and make their own mistakes and learn that way. And yes, obviously nobody wants a child to be abducted, but you can't live in perpetual fear. It's destructive, and there are many other ways to keep your children safe, and it's impossible to have a perfectly safe world. People who think it's possible to have a perfectly safe world want to live in a prison. That's the only way you can guarantee safety, is if you live in a prison with no freedom. And where everybody is under constant surveillance. That's a prison. And you want to do that to your child because you're sick. It's meant to just be an example of emotional mind control. So, yeah, Turkey's voting for Christmas. They're in a cult. They are in a cult. They're told how to behave. They are told what to think. They are cut off from the free flow of information through censorship, which is just getting worse. And they are emotionally manipulated not to take in or not to believe or even consider any information which goes against the cult's beliefs and behaviour systems. And they are told exactly how to behave and rewarded for good behaviour. It's a cult. We live in a cult. And when you display characteristics of someone who's not in the cult, then the cult attacks you. This is what Scientology did. They absolutely attack anybody and destroy them if they try and expose them for the cult that they are. It's a good documentary on Scientology. I can't recall what it's called. But anyway, it's a cult. We live in a cult. And that's what happens when you try and rationalise with someone. Somebody else, on that, going back to that post on Facebook, I put that book on and I said, yes, it's biased if you want the other side of the story. I wasn't trying to convince somebody. I was just trying to get people to look at both sides and then make up their own mind. But they can't. Nobody showed any interest in it whatsoever, because nobody is interested. The only people that commented on the post were people vehemently defending the illegal murder of people, because they're sick, twisted, and they've got somebody else's mindset, the sick, twisted mindset of the social engineers. The only other person to comment was somebody promoting their book, not theirs personally, but the one that they would recommend. And they said something like, yeah, on the interests of balance. No, this post was on the interests of balance, man. Yous have already made your mind up. Well, just, I don't know. Anyway, the next thing that popped into my memory was back in 2024 Olympics. It was in Paris. There was a boxing match in the women's category, and I can't remember if it was the final or the semi-final, but it was basically a man fighting a woman, obviously labelled as a woman, but he was a man, still is a man, and he was deemed to be suitable for the women's category. But anybody who's not under severe mind control can see this is how powerful it is. They can see it's a man. Looks like a man, walks like a man, talks like a man. It's got man's shoulders, man's arms, man's legs. It's got a penis. You can see it. In one photograph you could see it. It's a man. And then this man, live on television, in front of the whole world, goes in the ring and starts beating up a woman. And everybody's okay with it. And if I remember rightly, I think he knocked her down after about 40 seconds with a punch, like a killer punch, so to speak. And afterwards, the woman said to the media that she had never experienced a punch like that. Well, you wouldn't, because men, generally speaking, don't hit women. So that you wouldn't. I understand where you're coming from. A professional man boxer beating up a woman live on television to the whole world, and people are fine with it. That's sick. But again, on social media, there was a story there was a phenomena where people were calling this out on social media and posting a picture where you can clearly see it's a man, you can also see his dick. And people were calling out saying this is disgusting, this is a man beating up a woman. And women were like a pack of hyenas. Women were attacking the post maker. That's it. Leave her alone. You know, like defending her, inverted commas, her. And so you've now got women defending the absolute insanity that another woman is being beaten up by a man live on television. What if this mindset hasn't been handed to them, then where did it come from? Where the hell did it come from? It's clearly engineered to be so satanic. Satanic as in completely upside down in your thinking. And that's been given. That's been given to somebody. It's not, that hasn't evolved. What part of the theory of evolution says that eventually men are going to start beating women up live on television and we'll call it sport? But is it the same thing? People can't think because the hemispheres of their brains are completely lopsided and they're not firing with anything rational. Their ego is ruling. They've attached to some sort of belief system that this is reality and that it's progressive, postmodernism, and they've attached onto that emotional belief system and they've created it as an identity. And if anybody goes against it, they see it as an attack on their identity. And what do people do when they're under attack? It's not an attack at all, though, because they're delusional. It's just somebody come along saying you might not want to believe that. Could be harmful. But it's an attack. And what does your ego do? Your ego's out front and centre. Your chimp. Chimp's out of its box. And it has to be right. It's a defence mechanism. Because these people are so insecure. They're so mind controlled. They're so weak and meek. Patrolling social media like weak little children that they are. Keyboard warriors. They're so mind controlled, so meek, so self-loathing. They haven't got an ounce of self-respect because it's been beaten out of them by the trauma-based system. They haven't survived. They've been broken like a horse broken. Now they're completely tame and under the control of their owners. And that's where people are today. We live in a society where it's okay for men to beat up women, call it sport. You may as well just completely do away with women's sport. Just get of all of the weirdo freak transvestites. Not the genuine trans people, the freak shows who are using it for their own selfish ends. May as well just get all of those freaks. Just do away. Get rid of women's sport. It's just another attack on real women, which is the agenda. The real feminine psychology or the mental feminist quality that everybody should have: true care, true heart-based care and nurture and love. So yeah, we're going to beat up women, call it sport. We're also going to euthanize people. Who cares? That's an extremely, extremely weak population that you can do these sorts of things to, and they do nothing about it. Nothing. It's not that they don't. It's not even apathy. It is apathy, but it's worse. They are cheering it on. It's not like they're just sitting there apathetic and what can I do about it? I don't care as long as it doesn't affect me. They're begging for it. If there's a negative state of mind to be in, positive, if you can be, at the top of your consciousness, where you're vibrating at the highest energy possible, gratitude and things like that, and blah blah blah, love, gratitude, abundance. And then there's a negative vibrations, which is like fear, guilt, shame and things like that. I mean, these people have went past that. They've created some sort of new negative vibration, calling for their own culling. How has this happened? And why has it seemed to have just ramped up recently? Since the 2020 psyop? Maybe it's the poison. Maybe it's the poison has gone to their minds and they're not thinking straight. And they've chosen a side. Once you choose a side in an argument, in the dialectic, once you've chosen a side, you're already controlled. You've grafted on to that belief and you're going to defend it. The best solution is don't even choose a side. Just take a step back, look at it rationally. When you choose a side and you become staunchly attached to that, it's in your belief system. It shuts down any critical thinking because it's too important. Shuts down that part of the brain. You don't need that brain. You've already chosen. That's why people get annoyed when, even if somebody's trying to convince you to do something else, even if it's just something innocent, like, no, I've made my mind up. That's the car I'm going to buy. And somebody else is trying to convince you that you should buy what they perceive as the better car. And you can feel your temperature rising and your blood boiling, so the phrase goes. Because deep down, you've already made your decision, you've already made your choice, and you believe that that's the right choice, and you believe that that's the right car for you, and that's the car that's going to make you happy and change your life, and all of the other things that you go through when you make a decision like that. And somebody else is trying to persuade you. You start to get angry, and you can't question your choice of car because you've already made your mind up and you want it. It's normally for superficial reasons as well. You think it makes you look a better person, or give the idea that you've got a bit more status, things like that. And that's the same in this whole situation where people are happy with things that they really oughtn't to be. they think it represents them. They want to be part of a group. They want to be part of a crowd. They want to be part of a tribe. And they've made their mind up. Whatever that tribe believes is what they believe. They've made their mind up. That's the status they want. It's no different to buying a car. And this is just dumbed down people at the end of the day. Their brains are so dumbed down, so retarded. They don't know how to think. They've had their belief systems moulded for them. They have had all of their choices already made for them. And all they do is they just carry out the actions and suffer all the consequences. Because it's the actions which dish out the consequences. Nobody forced anybody to go and inject themselves with poison. Nobody forced anybody. I understand that the coercion was huge and people's livelihoods were on the line, but they've already come out and said this. Nobody forced anybody, and they're right. They are right. By the letter of the word, coercion and force are two completely different things. And it's very, very important within the occult, these psychopaths, manipulators with their completely insane belief systems. It's very important to them that you're not forced, because they understand that the nature of this realm dishes out consequences for actions, and they understand that if you do it to yourself, they do not suffer any karma. Karma means action. And so I understand there was lots of coercion and the huge media manipulation machine, and the government and their behavioural psychologists and all of the other tactics used in the PSYOP. Yes, it was a military grade operation. I get that. Right? But it's only through your stupidity, your naivety, and your complete self-loathing, insecure little mind that you were in a condition in the first place which meant you were going to fall for it. They would have known how many people were going to take the arm assault. They would have had a very good idea, and they would have known, the different levels of propaganda that would have been required to get some of the most sort of stubborn people. And that's why, because there would have been some people who would have just turned up. Why do you think it took them a year to carry out the operation? Some people would have turned up just because they saw it on the BBC News. Oh, there's a new thing, a new invisible threat, but we've got a solution. Get yourself down to your local National Socialist Health Service, and we'll inject you with some poison. They would have just rocked up, all the way down to some people who would have maybe been a bit dubious and a bit stubborn and a bit, I'm not too sure. I'm fit and healthy. I don't think I need that. They were the people at the other end of the scale who they needed to work on for, it was more than 12 months, wasn't it? It came down the age ranges. It took about 18 months. And obviously the younger, the more convincing you have to be that it's necessary for them, because they're young and they generally didn't get sick. And obviously they needed to use a lot of coercion for those people. Things like, threats that they wouldn't be able to go to nightclubs and comedy clubs, whatever, bars, restaurants. That was all for the young people. They're the people they want. So I get there was lots of coercion, but nobody forced anybody. And the karma is coming to a movie theatre near you. And I've wrestled with this since it happened. I've wrestled with this dilemma. Do I have empathy and compassion for these people? And I think as time ticks by, and I just see how utterly ridiculous and childish people are, I've lost faith. I honestly don't think I have. At the end of the day, the only thing I really, 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 truly care about is the future for my daughter. That's it. And these people are destroying it through their slavery mindset, that you're here to be ruled and governed and somebody else's bitch. So I honestly don't think I do have. Can I put myself in their shoes? Yes, I can put myself in their shoes. I do have empathy. I understand how strong the machine was, military grade, psychological warfare. I get that. But they're weak. My point is they're weak-minded. That's why it worked. Plus it was so fantastic that what they were claiming was so fantastical, but they didn't have any it was extraordinary what they were claiming, but they didn't have any extraordinary evidence to back it up. They just had propaganda. But yeah, I can have empathy. I can put myself in the shoes of a weak-minded slave and understand why they were so easily led. Yeah, I can have empathy. Or I can imagine what it must have been, and I can imagine what it must have been like to be so terrified and so convinced that to get out of the situation that we were told we were in, we all had to do our bit. I can imagine what that felt like. Compassion. I'm struggling. I'm struggling because it's not just them. It's not just their fate and their karma. It's everybody. Everybody who contributed to the PSYOP. Everybody who bought it and gobbled up the bullshit became a part of the PSYOP. That's how it was so powerful. All you need to do is turn off your telly. Didn't really have that much power. The power came from the people. And how many people have had to pay the price because of that side of the PSYOP, the people power? Remember the phrase came out of the propaganda machine: act like you've got it. I, again, you say this to somebody and they just think you're reaching. Act like you've got it. Yeah, because you're an actor in a psyop. So act like you've got it. Please make the psyop seem real. We need visual cues, like the way you behave and what you put over your face. Put some underpants over your face, please. Honestly, how can I have compassion for these people? The children that are going to be maimed, or already have been maimed and killed, and that will continue as the consequences of the poison starts to take its toll.